What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I've got some questions for you. Today's episode is kind of a brief one, but I have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and I'd really like your feedback. I'd like to know what you want to see on this channel, and I'm at kind of a crossroads with the WJ. We're actually doing some work on the Durango this week, and I'll get another episode out on that soon. But with what I have decided on the WJ, I really want your feedback. I want to know a little bit more about what you think that I should do. And should we keep going on the WJ, or should we move on to another project and give something else a shot? So I'm going to give you the full breakdown. I want your feedback. Stay tuned. Help me out. I appreciate it. All right, so I know that a lot of you are probably already a little bit biased, mostly because you probably follow this channel maybe for WJ content and because I built a 1-ton WJ. But I want you to try to think outside the box in case you are into the WJ world, and let's think about what else we can do. So I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown on what I'm thinking on the WJ at this point. And where it stands, and then my thoughts behind maybe doing something else. So as far as the big trail rig, the thing that I'm going to beat on, the thing that's like really built to be off-road exclusive, the Durango is that truck. With that in mind, the WJ was really my daily driver, something I am driving on a regular basis, or was until the transmission went out, and something I'd like to continue to drive. But it has a transmission that needs to go into it now. This one shot. And the transmission that's going into it came out of a Jeep with still, 255,000 miles on it. So it'll be fine, I'm sure. But at some point, it might need a whole different drivetrain. It probably doesn't need it, but it's probably something I'd like to do, is do an LS swap and change out some of the things that are in there. But that's where I start to go down this whole different path of what does this thing need, the parts that I have for it right now, and what do I want to sink into it, or do we get it running and driving again, transmission, steering box, and move on to something else. So here's the breakdown. The WJ currently has a busted steering box that doesn't work very well. We've got a new steering box for it. This guy. It's got a transmission that doesn't go in reverse right now, and probably doesn't hit fourth gear. I don't know because I haven't taken it up to speed yet, but there's our new used transmission for it. So it needs a transmission put in, and it needs a steering box. Nothing crazy. That's easy enough. However, when you look a little bit more at the other things that it would need, I really would like 40-inch tires on it. It's getting 5/38s, or potentially. I did purchase 5/38 ring and pinion, grizzly lockers front and rear, and rebuild kits for a 14-bolt and a Dana 60. Now, the Dana 60 will not just work with the 92 F350 Dana 60 ball joint front that I have. It will also work with a Super Duty front end if we were to do a Super Duty Dana 60. So that's where we get a little bit more into the axle situation and the steering. So I can put a new steering box on this, and we can reconfigure the steering a little bit. But I think ultimately what this needs, if it's going to get 40-inch tires, is it needs a little bit different steering setup. It's going to need full hydraulic assist. I shouldn't say full hydraulic assist. It's going to need hydraulic assist, which is fine. That's going to cost us a little bit of money to do that. So we put hydraulic assist on it. But the other thing that it's going to need, let's take a little look under here. So the other thing that it's going to need that I would like to do is more of a double shear setup, which requires building off these knuckles and doing something that would help beef up the knuckles and the steering and create some new angles. Don't worry about the rust. I didn't paint this steel before we left for King of the Hammers. So it would need more of a setup off the knuckles, which I'm fine with doing. I think it would be great, and I think that's something that would be fun to build anyways. But that's when I start thinking more about the Super Duty knuckles and a Super Duty axle, over, you know, more of this traditional ball joint Dana 60 front. We would fabricate a new pitman arm and get the new steering box in. This ram, or I guess it's a steering stabilizer. This steering stabilizer is bent right now, and let's see, you can kind of see it. Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty good angle. This puddle of fluid is from the steering stabilizer, so it's pretty bent. We would relocate it and put the new hydraulic assist ram over here from the axle up to the tie rod, and so that's just some of it. So let's talk about a few other things. So mildly, if I were to do some of those things, we could leave it on the axles it's on right now and upgrade the steering, more of a double shear setup with the knuckles that are on it, hydraulic assist, and put gears and lockers in it. Putting the gears and lockers in it would give us the ability to put 40-inch tires on it, and the assist would help us be able to do that as well. Here's where we get into more of like a second phase of the WJ, and the point where we think, is that what we want to do? We want to take it to the next level. Now, I think that where this sits right now, 40s would probably be fine. It's got 6.5-inch iron rock off-road springs on it. Potentially what we could do is use an 8-inch spring and lift it up a little bit more, give it a little bit more clearance. And I think it would allow us to run 40s just fine. So I guess that wouldn't necessarily be phase 2, but the shocks I think are at their max right now. So phase 1, let's just run through it real quick. Phase 1, hydro assist steering, double shear setup, and fabricated pitman arm. Swap out the steering box as a part of the hydro assist. New coil springs, so 8-inch coil springs instead of the 6.5 that we're running right now. New shocks, and then install the gears and lockers that we have for it. So that would be like the modest next phase of the WJ. And I think that that would give us enough clearance to run 40s. We're upgrading shocks, upgrading springs. We have to put the transmission in it still. Hopefully that new transmission, or new to us transmission with 255,000 miles on it, will have enough life left in it, especially with the re-gearing, to handle what we're going to throw at it. But I can't make any guarantees, and we may destroy that transmission too. That's part of the reason why the 37s, I think, destroyed the last, running on 410 gears. So I just think the 410s, the trans, and the 37 combo was a little bit too much for it. So that's phase 1 of the WJ. That would be like the next phase of the WJ. The bigger phase, let's call it phase 2, is pretty much the same thing, except instead of just adding 8-inch springs, we go coilovers. We lose almost the entire link suspension setup that's in there now, and we go with more of a custom suspension link setup. Probably it's either going to be 4 links front and rear, or maybe even 3 links front and rear. I haven't really thought about it that far. There's some clearance issues, and we'd really push it to the next level and build something that was a little bit longer wheelbase. We'd probably push the rear end out a little bit farther towards the back. The front might move forward a little. We don't need for the front to move too much, but maybe just a little to allow for articulation. It's more the back that would get pushed back a little bit. Coilovers, all new 4 links front and rear, or potentially 3 links front and rear. And then basically the laundry list of everything else I just said. So gears, steering box, hydro assist, double shear on the knuckles, all of that. That would kind of take it to the next level. That's a lot. And when I started thinking about really like what I see under here and the geometry changes I want to make and all of that, I wonder, do I want to put 8-inch springs on it and go 40s and put the gears in it and do all of that? Or we just get the Jeep running and driving again. We put the transmission in it. We put the steering box in it. And we kind of set up the steering to make sure that it's at the right angles that it needs to be. And we take those gears and lockers that I already have. We take the money that we would spend on hydro assist, and we start a new build. So here is where it gets interesting. All right, so the one thing I did forget is part of the kind of version 2.0, or phase 2, what are we calling it? Phase 2, let's go with phase 2. Part of the phase 2 suspension changes, if we were to lengthen this a little bit and go more of a full custom link suspension rather than what we used, the unibody is gonna require some reinforcement. So with doing that, that whole thing's gonna have to be plated. We're gonna have to either purchase a kit to do it or build plates ourselves and box in the whole frame and reinforce it, which is a lot of work. And moving the axles is a lot of work. It would take a bunch to do that, which I'm all for. If you guys are for it, you let me know. Or we go the more modest approach. The other option, and I've been thinking about it quite a bit, I'd really like to 1-ton swap either a Wrangler Unlimited, the 4-door, or a Tacoma. Probably a 2nd gen, possibly a 3rd gen, but probably a 2nd gen Tacoma. Probably just go and find like a 4.0 Tacoma, 2nd gen, double cab, short bed, and make that work. I've seen them. I love them. I think they're awesome. I think my wife would like a Wrangler Unlimited. So keeping in mind that, again, Durango, main beatable trail buggy, this is for the road. The next rig would also be more for the road. And I think that the Wrangler is what I've leaned more towards a little bit. There's so much stuff for them. It just makes it pretty easy to build something really cool. And we wouldn't go in like phases. We would just make something happen and build it out right away. So keeping in mind that we already have 538 gears, lockers front and rear, for a Dana 60 that would work with a Super Duty front, and the gears for a 14 bolt rear, we would go a little bit harder and do some of those things. I would pick up a new 14 bolt. We'd pick up a new Dana 60 Super Duty from right off the bat, trust them, deck them out, get them set up with everything that they need, and put them right underneath a Wrangler or a Tacoma. So that's where I need your help. Do we build this in phase 1, put 8-inch springs on it, 40-inch tires, hydro assist, and keep it kind of simple and a little bit more budget friendly? Do we go crazy with it and reinforce the frame and go crazy on the suspension and coilovers and make it something like that? Or do we just get this thing running again, running and driving, put the power steering box back in it, put the transmission in it, and get a whole new project vehicle, pick up a Wrangler or pick up a Tacoma, and either one would get 1-ton swapped, and a plethora of goodies after that. I think we'd probably go coilovers on either or. And that's kind of, you start thinking about that a little bit. Probably coilovers in the front of the Tacoma, leaf springs in the rear. A Wrangler, there's so many kits for them. We'd probably stick with coil springs and go coil springs all the way around, upgrade shocks, all those things. I am leaning a little more towards the Wrangler. Never had one. My wife really liked it. I think it'd be cool to be able to have a Jeep that we like using. The Tacomas are cool, but I don't know. I kind of like the idea of taking the top off of the Wrangler, having some fun in it. We live in a sunny place. It's pretty warm when it's not the winter time anyways. And I just think it would be fun to have. So both have solid frames, so there's no reinforcing like the unibody on this thing. Really like the WJ, love this thing, but I am leaning towards picking up something else, getting this thing back running again, and then really going hard on another project for, again, a streetable rig that we can also wheel hard and have fun in, and do something like that. So that's what I need your help with. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. What would you like to see me build? What would you like to see me take on? Are you into Tacomas? Are you sick of seeing Wranglers? Would you like to see a Wrangler? Air traffic. I know there's a lot of Wranglers out there. I know there's a fair amount of people building Tacomas now too. I know the WJ is something that a lot of people build as well. There's a lot of Cherokees out there. So let me know your thoughts. If you have something entirely different that you'd really like to see, shoot that over in the comments too. What do you want to see? What else is out there that maybe I'm not thinking of? I dabbled at the FJ a little bit. Not my thing. I like them, but off-road hub. He does a great job. Really like his setup. That thing's super cool. But with the family and stuff, I actually had a buddy with one, and we used to ride around in it all the time. We were riding BMX bikes, and I don't love getting in and out of the back of that thing. And so a kid in the car seat and getting the family in, not really into it. So the FJ's kind of out. That's why we're at a 4-door Wrangler or a 4-door Tacoma. The bottom line is, I really like this thing. It's an awesome rig. There's a lot of stuff that has to be changed on it at this point. And when you look at doing things the right way, which is the way that I like to do it, now that I've had it out and running it, and we've had it built for a while and we've used it, there are some things that need to go on. And before I just throw all the money from the gears and lockers and everything else into it that I've purchased, I'd like to think about what else we might want to do. So you tell me, what do we want to do? Are we building this thing like crazy? Are we going just to phase 1 and upgrading the things that we need to upgrade and keep having fun with it? Do we build a Wrangler or do we build a Tacoma? What would you guys like to see? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit that subscribe button so that you can find out what we decide to do, and stay tuned. I appreciate all your feedback. I appreciate your input. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.